So this whole section is about the cell cycle. Let's take a look at reasons that cells want to reproduce. Things want to get bigger, perhaps there's some damage, they need to repair that damage, or in fact they have to reproduce. So there are two ways that organisms can go about replicating themselves. Firstly, there's asexual reproduction, which involves one parent and that parent makes a copy of itself. There are a few examples, strawberries, bacteria, starfish. Here's an example. Here's a starfish that gets sliced in half, and then from its halving, it's able to recreate, heals the original and recreates a new one. Same thing there. You lop off one of the arms, it can regrow and turn into two organisms. The organisms are exactly the same, and there's some advantages and disadvantages to this reproductive method. The next one here is sexual reproduction, and that's where we have two parents. They each produce some genetic material that comes together, and a new organism is created. Your sperm and egg is pretty much the typical way that happens, through sexual reproduction. Once that's done, you've got a zygote, a fertilized egg, and then that egg is going to then start to reproduce up to the millions, trillions of cells that organisms can have. So we all start as one cell, and through the process of cell division, copies are made. And the original cell is called our parent cell. So here's a cell, that's our parent cell. And through this process of reproduction, we end up getting two identical offsprings, and those are called daughter cells. So your parent cell makes the daughter cell. So let's look at the cell cycle. So this diagram might look a little confusing at first, but I should preface this with there are three phases or stages of reproduction. And I must also say that outside of this, your cells are just doing their normal thing. Then once it comes time to reproduce, we go into these three stages here: interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. So let's come back to this picture at the end. It might make some more sense a little bit later on. So let's talk about interphase. So interphase is essentially your cell starts to duplicate itself, and it's just getting ready to divide. Once it's ready to divide, we enter mitosis. Now, there are 4 stages of mitosis as outlined down here. The initials spell PMAT. Hopefully you can remember that. And these are the stages here, and we're going to take a little bit closer look at these 4 stages. So your stages are prophase. There's your one cell kind of doubling its material. Metaphase, you can see things starting to spread out and organize. Anaphase, you can see that the one is now splitting into 2. And telophase, which is right there. This picture is from our book, and I think it's a pretty good representation. We've got interphase right here, and we also have interphase at the end. So it's kind of, again, it's a circular process. So there's your middle part. And then here are your phases. Again, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So let's look a little more at these stages. So stage 1 is prophase. And you can see your centrosomes have formed. The membrane is starting to break down around our nucleus here. The chromosomes have doubled. And we've got these centrosomes that are now heading towards the poles, and also these spindles that are there as well. In the next picture, we're going to see these things start to go into action. So that is prophase. Metaphase. So our chromosomes are lining up the center of the cell. The spindles have attached themselves here. So your centrosomes reach the poles right there. All your chromosomes are now lining up in the middle, and these spindles are stretching down and grabbing hold of the chromosomes. Our third stage is anaphase, and this is where it starts to become clear that we've got 2 cells forming. So our spindle fibers break apart the chromosomes. You can see that happening here, and we now have twice as many chromosomes. It's still considered one cell. It's all really together, but you can see that it's starting to split into 2. And that's what's happening in telophase here, our last phase. The spindle fibers are gone. You can see they've vanished. The membrane forms around our daughter cells. There's our membrane right there. And the nucleolus have now appeared. There's a nucleolus right there. Not sure why there isn't one here yet, but there will be one soon. So those are your 4 stages of mitosis. Now, cytokinesis is the last stage here. So with cytokinesis, we've got a division of the cells. So we kind of still have one here, if you will, at the end of telophase. But by the time cytokinesis is finished, we've now got two cells that are identical to each other. So it's the division is the cytokinesis step. So here's a little animation. You can see everything starting to form here. You can see your daughter cells are now there's the end of cytokinesis, and there you go. So back to this picture again here. So just to talk a little bit about it, we've got interphase, and interphase is happening a couple of different places. G1, there's some interphase going on. More interphase happening here. There's a couple of different steps to it. And then final interphase right there. For now, we're not going to get into too much detail on these, but in future courses you will. Then you get into the mitosis, which is happening right about here. And then lastly, you're into the cytokinesis going on in that little part, and then you're back to interphase as well. And that's the cell cycle.